Okay,
Mark Tolley.
it is now 9:31 on November 7th, 2024. We are going to call the Travis County Facilities Corporation meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice President Cheryl Brown.
Present.
Vice President Jimmy Finley.
Present.
Director Wilma Roberts.
Present.
Director Laura Hickey.
Present.
Director Judy Flores.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Is there anyone who signed up to speak to the board?
There was somebody just recently, I don't know.
That's probably for a hot seat.
Okay.
And is there anyone, I guess, online? No one online. Okay. All right, moving on to item 3 on the agenda. This is consent agenda, and this is approval of the minutes for the October 3rd, 2024 TCFC meeting.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The meeting minutes for October 3rd has been approved. Moving on to item number 4. This is action items. Item A is resolution number TCFC 2024-17, and this is to approve inducing the Aspire at Big Austin transaction and authorize all filing and agreements with Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs in connection with applications for low-income housing tax credits, and authorize the negotiation and execution of the memorandum of understanding, and authorize other matters in connection therewith. Is there anyone present to speak from?
Yes. So, as some of you may know, we've been working with Big Austin and Mission Development Group to get this project in front of you all, and we're pleased to provide this opportunity for you all to hear a little bit about the project. Mark Tolley with Mission Development should be logging on. I'm not sure if he is yet. He's having technical difficulties. Jim is also on the line, and Summer Greathouse, who works with Jim. I think we will do introductions in a little bit regarding Summer, but Jim, did you want to provide some a broad context, and we'll see if we can continue to work on getting Mark connected.
Mark
is
just,
on.
he just
Yeah,
joined.
Okay.
As a practical matter, this is a 372 unit tax credit project. The project is in the city of Austin, and we are being asked to join the project as a general partner and co-developer. We are not issuing the bonds for the tax credit portion of the project. That will be the Austin Housing Finance Corporation. And since, Mark, are you there? Mark?
He was having some technical difficulties.
We thought we had connected with him. Kevin, are you seeing him or no?
He's on, but his audio's not.
Oh, his audio's not. Okay.
So,
Yes. Continue.
where this project stands is they have applied for approximately $5 million of City of Austin funds. And the City of Austin was initially indicating that they would not award the funds until they knew that there was a tax exempt partner who would be involved in this project. And so Mark came to us and asked us if we would be willing to participate. And the resolution that is before you is just a preliminary indication that if in fact they are able to get the City of Austin and the Housing Authority of the City of Austin to enter into cooperative agreements to allow you to come into the City of Austin, then we would be in favor.
Good morning, Tim.
Oh, there's Mark. Okay, good. I'm looking at the project. So this is a non-binding resolution to simply move us forward. And Mark, I will turn it over to you and let you explain the project.
And Mark, we're
Thank
going
you,
to give
Jim.
you
Good morning.
good morning, and we're going to give you 5 minutes.
Thank you, Michaela. Well, thank you. We have been working on this project diligently since 2021 in conjunction with our nonprofit partner, Big Austin. The project itself is just shy of 7 acres. If you're looking at the map in front of you, it's part of a larger parcel that Big Austin purchased years ago and has subdivided into a couple of different sections today. The blue section to the north of the Aspire Big Austin site is a 228-unit BTR project being built by Urbana. Our project obviously is a high-density wrap, 369-unit, 100% affordable housing LIHTC project. And a future phase will be to the left there. You see a small sliver on the west side of Wedgwood. That one is proposed to be a senior housing project, an affordable senior housing project. So, again, we've been working on this with Big Austin for quite some time. Michaela, if you wouldn't mind, now they see the location, would you please go to the next slide? So this gives you kind of the basics of what we started with. We tried for roughly 400 units. We went into a HUD concept meeting, received concept approval, but HUD, it was reticent to go much higher than 360 units. So at the end of the day, thanks to our interaction with HUD, we did receive a concept approval with HUD, but to 369 units. Next slide, please. Here's some representative imagery of projects we looked at that kind of guided our architectural design through the process. We looked at projects in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, for things that we thought would have a nice contemporary design, higher density, and a wrap product. And so if you wouldn't mind, Michaela, next slide, we kind of runs through the design process of numerous projects that we toured, looked at, some of which are familiar to you. The one in the lower right-hand corner is obviously in Austin. Coming up with design that we thought was both contemporary and appropriate for the site. Next slide, please. So you can see how we started. We decided that because we did want to maximize the amount of affordability and affordable units on this site, that what's commonly referred to as a wrap product would be appropriate. That is a parking garage that is essentially wrapped by residential units. So you can see the various renditions here. We really kind of ended up with option B out of all of those 4 original renderings. And Michaela, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this is kind of the basic initial schematic plan. And the good news is that generally when you start down the road for civil work with the city of Austin and platting a property like this, quite a few easements come into play. Setbacks, right-of-ways, utilities, etc. But the original schematic design you see there really actually is very similar to where we're at today. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Michaela. So this is really what's come out of that. What we have here is on the lower left-hand corner, you have a standalone amenity tower. That amenity tower will have a cafe, a deli, and market that will be run by Big Austin, or at least managed by Big Austin, looking for community involvement in regards to the operations and management of that deli and cafe. The next floor up will be offices for Big Austin, but also co-working space and job development space. And then the third floor will be community rooms, community kitchens, demonstration kitchens, and a gym. The rest of the project, you can see a number of courtyards, essentially 4 courtyards. The first courtyard to your left by the amenity center is essentially connected to the amenity center, is a community open space. The next is where we have put the pool. We'll have a full-size Class A resort-style pool that's typical in most of our multifamily projects. And as Jim can attest, a number of those projects have won international or national awards for their architectural design. Then the lower two courtyards, and this all kind of descends down.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
You got about a minute. You got about a minute left.
Okay. All right.
You wanna hit
Next
the highlights?
slide, please. Obviously, more design slides, representative imagery. Next slide, Michaela, please. Again, more representative imagery and design slides. Next slide, please. More of the same. Next slide, please. So this kind of shows how we stack the amenity center. But it's obviously a prominent architectural piece in this overall plan, and will be on that hard corner of Breaker Lane and Wedgwood. Next slide, please. And this shows it in the overall mapping plan, how it'll fit. Next slide, please. This is at the lower, what I would call the southeast corner of the project, looking up Breaker Lane. This is essentially the mapping study and design plan. Next slide, please. And this gives you a close-up of the amenity center and how it interconnects with the residential wings on the left and the right of it. Next slide, please. And this kind of gives you a look outwards from the internal courtyard, out towards Breaker Lane to the left and out towards Wedgwood to the right. Next slide, please. Again, this is looking from Breaker Lane, kind of directly at the amenity center building on the left and residential on the right, looking into the first internal courtyard dead ahead off of Breaker Lane. Next slide, please. And again, another look at the amenity center and its connectivity to the residential. Next slide, please. And this kind of goes back to the beginning, our mapping studies and how we came up with effectively the plan with the four courtyards and the connected but prominent and standalone amenity center. And, we're lucky that we got through the platting process. We're well into the permitting process and site development process. We purchased the land in October of 2023. And we'll be ready to start construction in the first quarter of 2025, effectively with the plan that we started with and we have perfected to this day. So that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I guess my question is, I just want to make sure that the board understands with Jim and Ms. Summer what the next steps are for the board.
Well, I think the next step would be that we'll bring you back a term sheet. And everything is going to remain contingent on the city authorizing you to come into the city and HACA authorizing you to come into their jurisdiction. We have been told by HACA that they are fine with you coming into their jurisdiction. HACA's indicated that this project does not fit into their overall plans in the areas that they wish to develop in, and therefore they're fine with you coming in. So we will get a formal cooperation agreement with them, and then of course we need the city to agree. Once we negotiate the term sheet, we'll come back of whatever your next meeting is and give you an update and give you an idea of more detail on the financial end of the project.
Okay.
Then we will begin negotiating documents. We will create a single member LLC to be the general partner of this partnership, because that's what it takes to bring the tax exemption to the project. You have several deals like this that you have done in the past, and that LLC, as a general partner, would have liability associated with the project, but it will have no assets. The TCFC entity will have no liability in the transaction. Everybody, of course, will be fully indemnified. And we have negotiated several transactions like this with Mark for really various different entities. And so we will bring all of that back to you for your final approval. And of course, you're not going to be bound to actually do this deal until we have our cooperation agreements, we know we're going to get permission, and we have final documents.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so
Jim,
much.
if I may,
Jim.
I'd also like to add that the AHFC board has, and the AHFC in general has recommended to the RHDA board that this project receive an RHDA award. We had went through 4 funding rounds to get that award. But it basically states, and it clearly says that in HFC, we've talked to them about a partnership position like this. They have repeatedly said that they do not have the bandwidth for additional partnerships. So I believe it really is a good indicator that they are very willing to move this project forward, give the consent that Jim has mentioned, because they have effectively sent us an award letter for RHDA funds for this project in the amount of $8.7 million. And, we are going to their board on December 12th. And the only contingency to that award would be this development agreement between Mission DG, Big Austin, and the Hatson board.
And Mark, when do you anticipate closing?
First quarter. I mean, we're in the
Can't hear it. So it was just mentioned that we do have
Excuse me?
It was mentioned that we do have some correspondence in our package for the board members to review. And I'm just going to open it up to the board so we can move on to the next item on the agenda. Are there any questions from the board at this point?
I have one question for Mark. So you spoke about commercial space. You said Big Austin's going to be doing a deli in some of the space. What is the total amount of commercial space in this property?
Mark, could you hear the question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Michaela, I think you muted me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. The square footage is roughly 7,000 to 8,000 square feet between the cafe, the market and deli, which is on the first floor, and the additional commercial space on the second floor, which would be office space.
And we won't have any involvement in the commercial space.
No, no. But it's been a real desire of Big Austin since the very beginning to activate that ground floor and what they consider a food desert in that area with a cafe and market.
Are there any other questions?
No, I just wondered, I'm pleased that the city came to us to ask us to participate in it, because we've had such a fight over the years with that, and so I'm pleased to see that happen.
And I just want to extend a thank you to Jim for just stepping in at the last minute. And of course, we respect you highly, and the amount of work that you took and the energy that you spent just kind of wrapping your arms around this is greatly appreciated. So thank you for your work and your due diligence on this.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to item B. This is resolution number TCFC 2024-18. And this is...
We need to vote on
I'm sorry. I was going to vote. Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution number TCFC 2024-17?
I move to approve resolution number TCFC 2024-17.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Moving on to item B, resolution number TCFC 2024-18, and this is to approve inducing the Cameron Road Apartments in partnership with an affiliate of the NRP Group to be located at approximately 4915 East Yeager Lane, and authorizing the negotiation and execution of a term sheet and other matters in connection therewith.
I think we have Parker on the line.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so Parker, just from an operational standpoint, we're going to give you about 5 minutes to make your presentation, and then there'll be a few minutes for questions before we get to the resolution.
Understood.
Is that all right?
Yep, that works. I'll try to move fast. Appreciate the time from everyone. My name's Parker White, Vice President of Development with the NRP Group, presenting the Cameron Road TFC apartment. Can we go to the next slide? NRP Group, multifamily developer, founded in 1994. We're engaged in both low-income tax credit housing, market rate, as well as mixed-income communities. Consistently rated as a top builder and developer. Next slide, please. Offices across the nation, ranging from Vegas to the East Coast. Next slide, please. And we're vertically integrated, meaning that we keep construction, property management, development, and asset management in-house. This gives us the opportunity to control every phase of the development to make sure quality through construction, property management, as well as giving us insights into construction pricing and leasing trends. Next slide, please. Texas has been NRP's largest market. Over 25,000 units developed, 450 employees. And within Texas, at least over the past 5 years, Austin has been by far our most active market. So we feel that we understand the dynamics here and look forward to hopefully doing another. Next slide, please. So introducing the Cameron Road Apartments, it is within the Austin ETJ on the east part of town. We're planning to do 336 units, 20%, 60% AMI, 30% at the 80% AMI. It is within an area with very strong employment, transportation access, and retail amenities. Next slide, please. So this is our location overview. The main driver here is the employment in the area. We have Samsung, Dell, Applied Materials, and the Palmer Business Park within that 10-minute drive. The Tesla Gigafactory is 20 minutes away. And in addition to that, there's over 500,000 square feet of office/life science space that's currently under construction, fully leased. So from the demand side of the equation, we see things continuing to trend that direction here. We're right down the road from the East Village mixed-use development, which is under construction. We're expecting the first tenants to open up in 2026. There's 400,000 square feet of retail and grocery, and they've got an impressive list of tenants already signed on that I'm happy to share with you guys if there's interest. There's 5 miles of hike and bike trails, public access pickleball courts, and 1.5 million square feet of office life science planned. They've already signed a lease with Billion to One for 230,000 square feet. We're also 10 minutes from the HEB that is along I-35 and 20 minutes from the Austin airport. Next slide, please. This is just a closer overview. We're getting our main access off Cameron Road. The Breaker Lane extension's coming up behind us. We're on 15 acres. So again, next slide, please. So this is our site plan. It's obviously in the very early stages, not shown on here. We're going to have a pool in the courtyard on the eastern part of the site, and the dog park will be on the western side of the site. We've got 12 three-story garden-style buildings, and we've got an easement through the neighboring parcel to give us our fire access. Next slide, please. So this digs in a bit more into our unit mix, like you mentioned, 336 units, and then also the affordability levels that we're targeting. Like you mentioned, there's quite a bit of high-level employment here where people are making well into the six figures, and gives the risk of some of the nurses, teachers, firefighters, policemen to get priced out of the market. So we're hoping to provide high quality housing to that area of the income bracket. Next slide, please. So in RP, we build our PFC projects to the same standard as we do our market rate. We actually built one market rate one just down the road that I'd expect resembles this one pretty closely. That means the resort style pool and courtyard, high-end fitness, dog park, conference room with workspace for studying or work from home, club room, and high-end finishes. Next slide, please. I moved a bit fast there, but I appreciate everyone's time and happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
So the question that comes to mind for me is the location is Jaeger Lane, and that's Austin proper as well?
So it's very interesting, that part of town, that area is actually in the ETJ. So there's pockets between 290 and Palmer that are in the ETJ. You think they're in the city of Austin, but depending on where you are in that proximity. But this area actually happens to be in the ETJ and not in the city.
Okay, all right.
Question I have, if I may, the road there, Jaeger, isn't it gonna have to be expanded or widened if we're putting that many units? That Palmer Lane is getting saturated with complexes.
Yeah, and we've met with the transportation department, and I believe they're planning on adding a turn lane. I'd have to go back to my notes to be able to share exactly that. There are plans for roadway expansions and doing something with that intersection there, and they're aware of our plans to build here.
So Parker, I have a question. Was there any consideration to include any 30% units?
So the numbers here end up being very, very tight, and going with 30% units is just such a massive gap between where 60% units are. It would be incredibly difficult to make this financially feasible with the 30% units. So we were able to get the 20% at 60% and still find a way to make this work. I think that 30% would just be too difficult to work in through the PFC structure.
So, but you have 166 market rate units. There's no room at all to include any 30% units, maybe five units?
Yeah, that would be my request.
I mean, we can definitely take a look at that and see what we can do. It's just that creates pretty large impacts when we're talking about 30% instead of like a 60% or 80%. That's happy to go to the drawing board and see what we can work out.
Yeah, I would recommend that you do something like that as well. At least take a look at, what could we do to really make these units affordable for at least a few people, with 30%. So I think of that number, 5 sounds like a good ratio for me as well. So if you could take that back. And are there any other questions from the board?
Well, the concern of public transportation, because that portion of Jaeger Lane, I know it comes up to Palmer and Dassau, but how do those individuals that have the 30% get to the public transportation? That's something that needs to be looked at also.
I think I also want to say too, this project proposal is at our bare minimum for affordability. And so if there's more than one way to skin this cat, to come back to us with some other options, I think might be useful too. Just beyond the scope of the 5 at 30%. If there's any way to get us, into a better place on affordability, I think that should be entertained too.
Understood. Yeah, and we'll go back to the drawing board here. I know it's incredibly tight as is, but I think it would be great if we're able to figure out a way to include additional affordability.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Do you want to approve it or table it?
Or table?
I want to first ask is...
I would recommend that we table this until Mark comes back to us with...
So make a motion.
I so move.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the action was
The-
tabling it?
Yes. Thank you so much, Parker.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item number 5 on the agenda. This is the regular agenda. Item A is financed by Supra.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's included in the budget packet is the finance report for TCFC and the set-aside funds for September, for the period ending September, so that's 9 months into the year. And in September, we generated $842,000 in revenues, and that pretty much came from the Flats 130 that closed in September, and that brought in $547,000. So obviously the revenues, half of the revenues goes into the set-aside fund, and we have contributions that we have to make every month to HATC and HATC Foundation. So the net was $296,000 for the month of September. In the HATC packet, there is a budget amendment that formalizes some of the proposed commitments that we discussed in the previous board meeting. So 1.75 million to Carson Creek and 2 million to, I guess, to the NRP, and 680,000 to fill in the gaps for the HATC properties. So that will be in the amendment, and those funds would be coming from TCFC too. Other than that, I didn't really have anything. I added another schedule on the report which shows the breakout of the revenues by project since the inception, since we started doing these PFCs. I believe it was in 2020 that we started doing this. So we have, from the inception to now, we have generated about $11.5 million to TCFC.
Great.
That's good.
That's all I had.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Supra?
Not a question, but thank you for writing this. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item 6. Are there any board committee reports? If none, is there any new or unfinished business that we'd like to cover? If not, moving on. Oh, sorry, go on.
Jim, well, you want to introduce Summer at this point, and then I was going to share a little bit about some of what Summer and I have been talking about the way forward.
Sure. Summer Greathouse is there with you. Summer is my partner. Summer does exactly what I do on a full-time basis and has been doing it for more than 6 years. All she does is represent government entities in both tax credit projects and in public facility corporation workforce housing projects. And Summer is going to be replacing me because I am going to retire on January 1 of next year. And so Summer came up today to introduce herself, say hi, and meet you. She has been in on the last couple of meetings, and she has worked on many of your projects. But on a going forward basis, she will be the lead. She is incredibly experienced. You're going to love her. And she wanted to just come up and say hi in person so that you could get to know her.
Great.
Thank you for
Welcome.
coming.
Thanks for
Welcome,
having me.
welcome.
Yeah. So Summer and I talked about maybe potentially in January. I know that some of the things that we've been coming forward with, like case in point, like today, we were asking for 5% units, 30% units in the PFC structure, which is different from our standard terms that we've been basically prescribing. So if we in fact want to have that discussion in January about raising the standard or thinking about what that means relative to market conditions, we were suggesting that maybe in January we have that discussion. Additionally, as we are looking at these 4% projects, obviously the standard terms hadn't been presented to you all. We've used some terms with NRP in a previous deal, the Belmont deal, but we do have a recommendation for what we think would be the standard ask would be, and we think that that would be appropriate to have that discussion, at the beginning of the year as you're talking about the way forward. But I would caution the board to really take into consideration that we obviously are trying to create a standard and set a precedent for what we're asking for. And if folks come in and we're saying, well, no, we expect something different from what we've said, it does provide some challenges relative to how we negotiate, because obviously there's an expectation and we're kind of not being consistent with that. So we do want to explore that and talk about that further, obviously, because we want to give folks some relative expectation of what we want. And it really helps move the process along. And that's why we're able to bring projects forward, because you all have drawn a line in the sand and said this is what you're looking for. So I just want to encourage the board about that.
I mean, I would respond to that with, yes, I know it comes as a surprise, but as a board, we are always in pursuit of more affordability.
Of
And
course.
so if it happens on the fly, it just does.
Right.
And, they can go back and look at their
Yeah,
metrics.
I'm just saying to the staff, as we're talking about building relationships and want to
Yeah.
give folks some idea about what they're looking for.
Right.
It makes the process
I understand.
a little bit
Right.
more easier to say, hey, this is what we're thinking we want,
Right.
expectation
I
wise.
do understand the hardship it
Yes.
creates. Okay.
And it goes both ways, because I think that there's been situations where we have drawn a line in the sand, and then the recommendation from both you and Jim was one that says, let's look at this on a case-by-case basis, and we'll make some adjustments based on the current situation. So, we have been flexible as well. So I think it goes, it goes both ways.
Right.
And it's hard to determine, right, if we get into a situation where something of this nature is coming forward, and it has been vetted a certain way, knowing that it's been vetted that way will be beneficial as well before the presentation even starts, right? So, so we're in line with each other as we move forward.
I think that talking about kind of having a set of standard terms, and I agree that having the flexibility both directions is absolutely necessary, but it gives you an opportunity to talk about what you've accomplished, where you see the need remains to be in the community, and for you as an organization to just set some goals and kind of have some guideposts. And then obviously case by case basis, if something, project comes before you and you decide based on that location or based on the market conditions at
Right.
the time, we want to deviate from those terms, that's absolutely, we're not saying we're going to have a hard and fast rule.
Right,
And
right.
we've done that.
Yeah.
We had a project maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That caused a little bit of an uproar, but we got that done. So,
Right.
yeah, I think that looking at it and not strictly adhering to a standard is just
Right.
fine.
And I think that the other thing too is, when we, what would help with this as well is like, in the past we had discussions and presentations presented to us before the board meeting where we actually talked through the project and what is actually coming forward and just meeting with the real estate committee to kind of share that information would also be helpful, so that it doesn't appear or feel to be something that we're seeing, in just for the first time. So just
If I may sum it also, including in this, Patrick, is, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we had a 65,000 shortage in the area. We need to look at that number and see where we are, because as we look around Austin, and units are going up all over the city. Where are we with regards to becoming a saturation? And then we have to force the market then would force the rent down to the 30% or whatever is needed. So keep that in mind. Is there any way to get some updated data on that, Patrick?
Yeah, the city, obviously this is outside of the city, so we'd have to see how the county is tracking that. They're not as steadfast in their the collection of data relative to these things, but I think we have a good idea. I mean, we ourselves were talking about showing where the projects have been approved and that sort of thing. So yeah, we certainly can get some data on where developments are going, what type they are, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And to add to that, Patrick, can we get a map of where our current properties are?
Yeah, and that is forthcoming. We're working on that.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. Is there any other discussion relative to new or unfinished business? Nope. So, Summer, welcome. We look forward to working with you. Jim, I was teasing her earlier today. I told her that I was going to tell her, I told her to tell you that you sure did look pretty today sitting here, so. All right, moving on to item number 8 on the agenda. Is there a reason to go into executive session? Nope. If there's none, is there a motion to adjourn the TCFC meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.